Hi, this is Abby from AV Tarot Reading, and I wanted to briefly go over what is often perceived some of the best cards in tarot and some of the worst cards in tarot. So, everyone loves like an underdog. Let's go ahead and hop into some of the worst cards in tarot. So, if you are following along in the Facebook group, you saw that I pulled a series of cards that are often perceived as bad cards or intense, hard cards. I'm of the opinion that there's no such thing as a bad card because I feel like bad is a judgment. It's not so much like you can't say that this glass bottle is a bad glass bottle. It's a glass bottle. So a glass bottle is in itself bad or good. It's the judgment that's applied to it that is bad or judgment good. So that's why I have that notion that there's no such thing as good or bad or right or wrong or that kind of thing. But we still have a societal construct that has been built around that cards like the devil is a negative card. Now it can perceive less than ideal situations depending on its context, depending on what's near it or how it's being aspected. But the devil card in particular is often about situations that kind of manipulate us and kind of yank on our strings and are have attached to us in a certain way that can kind of it goes right back to manipulation. That is the word of the day when it comes to the devil card. So be it friends or relationships or even food. You know how like you're on a diet or you're trying to watch your weight and that cake is you're just watching that cake. That's the devil card, essentially. The cool thing here, though, is that it does have an angel. It's one of the 4 angels, I believe, that's in tarot. But it also has the chains that are connected to, essentially, who is Adam and Eve. In most depictions, not all depictions are that way, but in some depictions it's an Adam, not the Adam, and Adam and Eve. The next one we're going to pull is the 5 of Pentacles. So this card is often considered a hard card to deal with because it's like the characters, the figures are out in the cold. It looks snowy. They're they're injured. So he has like a little crutch and his leg is not doing well. The other person is kind of in a blanket. They kind of look homeless. They kind of look like they need a thing or two. The thing with this card though is that help is right behind this door. So this is the Tree of Life. Help is behind this window. So that's a building. They could go around, find the door, and go in and find help. Like that is something that's available to you. Often, also, if you ever get the 5 of Pentacles reversed, your window now becomes a door that you can easily walk through. You as the viewer, you as a person. So even in rough situations, you can flip this around and make a door for yourself. You can make a pathway for yourself. You can make it from where you're at to where you actually want to be. Probably one of the harder moments to go through is what I call tower moments or the tower card. So the tower card is like when all hell has broken loose. This is the card where your rug has been pulled out from underneath your feet and everything around you is kind of stopped and falling all at the same time. You kind of feel like you're falling out of a plane. You kind of feel like all hell is breaking loose. It's kind of like what is happening globally with us right now. The cool thing is with a tower card is that it will be over soon. And that's the hard part of it because it's a space of time, but it's a moment in time. It will not last forever. So often within life, within tarot, even within our day-to-day, we think how we are feeling in this moment is how we will feel forever. What's going on for us in this moment is what's going to go on forever. The money we're making right now is what we're going to be making forever. That is not the case. Everything turns. That is one thing you will learn about tarot is that, especially the Wheel of Fortune, it keeps spinning. Life keeps going. The wheel keeps spinning. The world, there you go. The world keeps spinning on its axis. Things continue to change, shift, and evolve. So even if you've received a tower moment or you've received a tower in your reading, it's just about upheaval. It's just about transformation. It's about things that are about to get interesting. Sometimes it's more interesting than you like, but it will shift soon. It will shift soon. Another card that is often depicted as it makes you kind of hold your pearls is the Death card. So the Death card is actually one of my favorite cards. I have a few favorite cards in the tarot, and Death is one of them. One, because I'm a little macabre, but also I am a big believer in the transformation that comes from tilling up your own soil, of composting, of kind of like the butterfly and the death of the caterpillar to transform into the butterfly. This is a transformational card, not so much a literal death, dying, and everything bloom and gloom kind of card. I also am appealed, interestingly, that Death wearing a black suit of armor is riding a white horse. So to me, it's like if you apply good and bad symbolism to it, the dark aspect of the what is it, Green Reaper, the skull person on a white, classified as like what do we think of white? We think as pure, as spiritual, as almost angelic in a way. He's riding a right horse. Like, to me, that is freaking awesome. He's freaking awesome. Anywho, another card that is often looked at poorly is the Nine of Swords. So the Nine of Swords has all of these things that kind of keep us up at night. So this figure looks like he's had a bad dream. Maybe he's awoken from a bad dream. There's lots of issues going on with this person. So when it's upside down, I think of it as like your to-do list, like the mounting things that you have to think about, the mounting things that you have to do, like the individual tasks that always need to be done. So often this is self-inflicted though. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, I have this court case. But even the court case can be self-inflicted. What did you do to have to go to court? Sometimes. So also, use the Hermit card. Oops, sorry, somebody just hopped in. I'll come back to that. The Hermit card is sometimes looked at poorly because it is kind of considered as like a lonely situation or a by yourself situation. And by yourself is never a bad thing, I think. I'm also a little bit of an introvert, so to me, by myself is heaven. But when you have the opportunity to leave where you're at, to go away in quiet reflection and come back, you have shifted, you have grown, you have elevated, you've inspired in some way. So often, people who come for like love readings, for instance, will ask, will I ever find love? And then I'll pull a card for them, and the Hermit often shows up for them. And it shows up for them not because they will always be alone. That is not what this is meaning by any stretch of the imagination, but this means that love can show up for you when you have realized and learned how to be by yourself. When you've gone away and you no longer need others to complete or serve or fill a void or any of the barrage of things that relationships often get into to do, that's when you can actually have whole, glorious relationships. But sometimes it often starts with a Hermit card. Another couple cards that are looked at as interesting is the Ten of Swords. So that one looks kind of like a bloody mess. All these 10 swords into the spine of the guy on the ground. So if we look closely, that is the peace sign. So even at this, massive moment of like almost complete annihilation, complete done, if you look through the swords, there is a new horizon. There's a new dawn. The sun is coming up, essentially. Like, black in tarot is often about how you cannot see past this moment. You're super hyper focused on what's going on right this second, but the moment is breaking from the new dawn that's in the horizon. So it's like this complete annihilation is just a moment, and we will get up and we will continue to move forward because we are still breathing. So when this card shows up, it can be like, whew, and then you just get back up. Five of Cups is another card that kind of looks kind of sad because this guy is sad over his spilt milk. So the funny thing is that it's temporary, hun. Like, look at the other 2 cups that you have still standing. You'll be just fine, is generally what I say when this card shows up for someone. And lastly is the Three of Swords. So the Three of Swords often talks about heartbreaks and being disappointed and hurt feelings and things to that nature. The cool thing with this card, though, is that the gray kind of has that stormy feel, so it's more of a mental thing instead of an actual like physical wound. So if you can take the swords out of your own heart or out of the heart, then the wounds can heal. So is that caustic relationships? Is that terrible thought processes? Is that hardships or other struggles that you're working through? Once you remove the thing that actually hurts you to begin with, then the heart can actually heal. So often that's the hard cards of tarot. However, on the equal end of that same spectrum, there's the glorious cards, the cards that always make people happy when they show up. And I just have a handful of them, and there's varying degrees of happy cards, but there's a few that are like extra happy. So first of all is the Lovers. Often this card is thought of as just directly a Lovers card, but it's kind of a little bit more than that. It's also the Two Paths card. This card will often show up when it's like there's this joint, you're at the fork, you're at the point where this is going to split off, and you need to choose. You need to look. So it's not just a communion card, but it is sometimes a parting card. What is this? The Atom is the same Atom in the Devil card. The Eve is the same one as well. He looks to her while she looks to the angel. So if I understand this correctly, it was taught to me as like he is the body, she is the mind, and that's the spirit. So this is the divine connection, woman in divine connection with deity or with spirit or with God, essentially. Another card that is often perceived well is the Two of Cups. This is also about partnerships and connection. The thing with this card, though, is that their faces are a little grumpy. So let's see if it shows. So she is not really pleased to have him touch her hand. It's like, okay, so we're tentatively in connection. It's like there's emotions, but it's like a truce, like a momentary, like hostile truce for just a moment. So the card shows up often. It can be like, yay, that's good. Sometimes it's hostile. It can be a hostile truce. 10 of Cups is often perceived as a really high. It's an awesome like yes card. Often, it's usually about family. You got the family here. You got the little kids playing. It's a great big old rainbow. These are often like things that we want for ourselves or things that we want in life. So it's a fun card to have when you do. The Sun is probably also one of those most upbeat cards because the Sun feels like happy, joy. It's a little kid. It's a banner on a white horse. Remember where that white horse also was? But the funny thing with the Sun card is that sometimes it's also perceived as like too much of a good thing. Like, have you ever had too much sun? Like too much actual sunlight, you get burned. So it's like, yes, it can be wonderful, but maybe like, enjoy it. Have your joy, but find a way to ground yourself because otherwise you might get burned. So it's not a bad thing per se, but it's just like temperance. A little bit of temperance will work really well there. The Nine of Cups is also another card that has a lot of high positive energy to it, but also a touch of arrogance. So this guy is sitting in front of his abundance. He feels confident. He feels arrogant. He's kind of overindulgent. So sometimes it's about literally overindulgence, eating too much, drinking too much, having too much of a good thing. But also it can be just pride. Like, I made that. He made that, or whoever made that, and he's sitting there proud and able to show it off. So just depends. Three of Cups is another cup card that is often perceived as awesome, and this one's about celebration and the relationships and parties often, and good times. It's usually just like, yeah, party style. Four of Wands is another high energy good card. It's usually about a celebration. Sometimes it's about a wedding. The people in this card are having a grand old time, basically. So whenever this card shows up for you in a reading, it's about good times. And sometimes in a house, like usually the four corners of a wall. Seven of Cups, another cup card that is often perceived well. My concern, though, is that this figure is in black, so he is very acutely aware of only right now. He's not really focused about tomorrow or yesterday. He is very focused on the fact that he's entirely too many options, too many things to decide, too many things to chew on, too many options available to him. So that card can be interesting, but it's like when you have too much and you're having decision fatigue. It's like when you go into the grocery store and you're like, I don't know what to get now because there's so many options available. Last card, besides all the aces, is the Ten of Pentacles. Ten of Pentacles is about family, and often it's about genealogy or legacy even, because if you look deeper into the card, you can see the older guy with his kids and his dogs and their grandkids, or the little one right here. So it's usually about family. I don't always think of this card as a great card because it's like that face and they don't always look happy. So this card has some mixed feelings for me on it, but it's usually perceived as a high, joyous, positive card. But yeah, so outside of that and the aces, those are kind of the worst and the best of tarot. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll totally follow up. I love following up with y'all. So take care. Bye.